Okay, we will start. Yasmat jatam jagat sarvam yasminyeva praliyate yenedam dharyate chaiva tasmai jnanatmane namaha Ishvaro gururatmeti murti beda vibhagine vyomavat vyapta dehaya dakshinamurtaye namaha Taittiriya kasarasya mayacharya prasadataha vispashtartharuchinam hi vyakyeyam sampraniyate Om Shanno mitrasham varunaha Shanno bhavatvaryama Shanna indro brihaspatihi Shanno vishnururukramaha Namo brahmane Namaste vayo Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi Tvameva pratyaksham brahma vadishyami Ritam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmam avatu Avatu mam Avatu vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So last time we saw the fifth anuvaka, which is the Vyahriti Upasana, Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, and then the Mahaha, which is the Brahman. So that is what we saw. I thought I will quickly summarize that. We ended with this Tava etas chatusras chaturda Chatusras chatasro vyahritayah Tayo veda Saveda brahma Sarvesmai deva balimavahanti. So the last Sarve asmai deva balim avahanti is the sort of a palashruti. For that person who mastered this upasana, all devas will offer unto him. That is a literal meaning. Actually, this anuvaka and the next anuvaka are related. That's why there is not much pala here. They are all postponed to the next anuvaka. So just a half a line, we will just leave it. Just to summarize, so we have Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha. Those are the three popular Vyahritis. Then the Maha Chamasya came and brought that Mahaha. That fourth Vyahriti, he brought it. And with these four, we have a 4 by 4. So that's how the 16 are coming. So Adhilokam, take the world as the object on which you can contemplate. And on that you can contemplate. The Bhu can be contemplated on this world, which is this world. And the Bhuvaha can be contemplated on the interspace, which is the Antariksha. And the Suvaha and the other world, which is the heaven, and Mahaha on Aditya. So we saw all these. So this is how this Vyahriti ended. Finally, the 16 of them. I will recite the next anuvaka and then we will start. Saya esho ontar hridaya akashaha Tasmin ayam purusho manomayah amruto hiranmayah antarena taluke ya eshastana iva valambate se endra yonihi yatraso keshanto vivartate vyapohya shirshakapale Bhurityagno pratitishthati bhuva iti vayo suvarityaditye maha iti brahmani apnoti swarajyam apnoti manasaspatim vakpatis chakshushpatihi shrotrapatir vijnanapatihi yetat tato bhavati akasha shariram brahma satyatma pranaramam mana anandam shanti samriddham amritam iti prachina yogyopasva. So this is the next anuvaka. I want to give a little background to this anuvaka. Things are getting much deeper. But Priya asked a question last class. The answer is here. She asked, why are we contemplating on the objects of Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha and then Maha? Why can't we do directly? Something like that. She asked the question. Part of the answer lies here. So let's understand what is the logic here. So far we discussed two upasanas. This is Vyagriti, just now we saw. Then we saw the Samhita upasana. First upasana was Samhita, the conjunction of words. And those two upasanas have been playing a major role in bringing one's mind under focus. So what is the idea? If you just leave your mind will go all over the place. So the very idea, fundamental idea of upasana to begin with is like putting a pole and measuring a thread and tying it to a cow. The mind is the cow. The pole is the alambanam. It can be Vyagriti, it can be Sandhi. It looks, strange to us. But the idea is, moment you do it, at least by trying to think about it, you take all your the wandering of the mind is controlled. So, if somebody does Samhita upasana or Vyagriti upasana, although there are pala, all those are told, most important pala is the mind gets a little bit under some boundary. Other, if you don't do anything, the mind will go all over the place. So far we saw that the upasanas are primarily a vehicle for keeping mind under one's own sway. That is the idea. But now in this upasana, which we are going to see now, which I just now recited, we are moving one step further or one step deeper. If I were to use the word correctly, it is one step deeper. Because here the Shruti, the Upanishad is telling in the form of a teacher telling the convocation address. That's how the first chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad is. Here he is saying that the object for upasana, so far I have been giving you objects which are outside. Because, the conjunction of words is something outside. The Bhuhu, Bhuvaha are all outside. Aditya, Chandra are all outside. So far I have been giving you ideas of world outside. In this upasana, he says now your substratum for doing upasana is your mind. Which means now it has gotten a little deeper. You say reflect in the world within. Now we can't do that straight. Doing that itself is difficult for us. Trying to do the Vyagriti upasana itself is difficult. If we gain some mastery in that, we can come here. So the third step he is introducing is he is saying focus the attention into world within. That's why I have written, if you look at the subtitle for the slide, it says Manomayatwadi. Manomayatwadi Brahmopasanaya Swarajya Siddhi. So this is in a nutshell what is in this anuvaka. You do contemplation using your mind and contemplate on Brahman and get a Swarajya Siddhi. All these are so we have moved one step further now, one step deeper, where we are saying the alambanam for upasana is no longer outside. It is your own mind which is within. So this is a very important departure. Why? Because this brings the concept of Brahman from something remote. Say, as long as you say Vyahriti, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Chandra, Aditya and all that, it is some far off place. God is in a far off place. Whereas now we are not saying God is in a far off place. It is within. So that is where it is moving now. So it is no longer remote. The Brahman that needs to be contemplated is no longer remote now. It is part and parcel of yourself. That is the important departure that is happening in this logic behind this upasana. This is much tougher, obviously, and it requires much greater practice. The others are little easier. You can put a saligrama and say that is Vishnu. You can put a Omkara and then keep looking at it. Even we have difficulty with that. But relatively speaking, that is easier. This is what we are going to see is much tougher. Because you have to see the Brahman in your mind. That's what it is going to say. So the question is, why is this being told to these young students? They are all, students who have just done their little bit of, see, this is a week of convocation, that's why I want to talk about this issue. Because first thing I realized when I came to IIM Bangalore as a professor 23 years back is in IIT Madras, the convocation address is always, I don't know what is happening now, but I've been following it. The convocation address, they call somebody who is very lofty, who can give very lofty ideas. Very lofty ideas. The first convocation was Dr. Radhakrishnan, who was the president at that time. I think he was a president. So we have been having very big think tanks, people who can give very lofty ideas. They were brought for convocation. Whereas what I found here was, here they brought business people. I mean, they have a certain focus. So I have seen the Deepak Parekh came, he talked about insurance business. Somebody would have prepared a deck for him. I have seen all the CEOs come and talk. I pity for the CEOs because they may be too busy. So some PR fellow makes a deck. So he comes and talks about what happened to insurance. And I don't know why these passing out students want to know about, of course some of them may want to know. The point is, so the point I am trying to make is, what is this teacher doing here? This teacher is he is bringing very lofty ideas. I believe that a convocation address must put you on 10,000 feet. Then anyway 3 days later you are going to come down. But it's very important that, so that is one reason why very big things are being told. Second reason why this is being told, I keep telling my students, sometimes they ask me, I tell that in this institute many of us follow, we say 40% of what we teach should never be useful to you for 5 years. It should be useful to you 5 years later. Industry doesn't like it. They want people who are ready for tomorrow. Then 3 years later, I don't know what they will do. That's a different issue. So, I think when students pass out, we must give 40%, this is my rough thumb rule, ideas which must be useful. They can't come for the second time. Are you telling me you are going to come and do one more degree here? It's never going to happen. So that may be another reason. Very lofty ideas, tough things for the passing out students, it may be tough. But they need to, have this at the back of their mind. They are going into the world now. See, the first chapter will be like that. Henceforth, one more upasana. After that, it's all some very nice ideas. After the last upasana, which Pangta upasana, we will see. After that, some ideas of how do you live. This is the first part of the Taittiriya Upanishad, the second half of the first chapter. We are almost in the first half, end of the first half of chapter 1. We have these 4 upasanas. But these upasanas are getting tougher and tougher. Now this upasana, this anuvaka 6, okay, is another upasana. And this upasana is one in which the Brahman is, the Nirguna Brahman is contemplated as Hiranya Garbha, as that first primordial living force that came and created this universe out of the Nirguna Brahman. That is called Hiranya Garbha. So this is Upasana and Hiranya Garbha. This anuvaka has three clear messages. In fact, the way I have split it, this is not the way it is split in Taittiriya Upanishad. I have split it like this. The way I have split it is the first two lines talks about what is to be the object for contemplation, where is it to be contemplated. That is what is there. The second two lines, second sub-split which I have made here, you see here, that talks about what happens to the person. This is a very deep subject. I mean, this is a very serious subject. I think it's going to be very heavy also today. Philosophically, a very deep idea. At times it may appear a little scary also, but that's what reality is. So the second part talks about what happens to this person if he succeeded in this upasana. He actually travels through a path. So that is what is mentioned in the next two lines. So that's the second part. Then there is a third part in the next slide, which is all actually the pala. And the pala is for actually both previous anuvaka and this anuvaka together. Because here also buhu, buvaha, swaha are coming. So people are inferring that both the anuvakas are to be contemplated together. So it has three parts. First part is what is the object to be contemplated, where it should be contemplated. Because now it is within, so now we have to point. Second is if somebody succeeded in that contemplation, what will happen to that jiva? That's the second part. And the third part is the phala. Now, if you look at the upasana, as I told you, the field of upasana becomes one's own world within. The field of upasana is not outside. So far it has been outside. Now it is world within. So that's a marked departure there. And Brahman is no longer remotely to be searched for. It is part and parcel of ourselves. So that is the shift that this upasana is doing. This upasana is actually reminding two very, very important things. This upasana message is very closely connected to chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. I have talked some of these ideas in chapter 8 earlier. I will bring those today again. They are very important. This upasana reminds two important things. Two great statements. One statement which says, Yad bhavam tad bhavati. It's a great Upanishadic statement. In simple English, as you think, so you be. So you behave or whatever. So you become. This is the nearest English you can take. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. That is reminded by this anuvaka. We will see that. And the second thing which it reminds is it reminds the importance of death. Right? And the final moments of, see, all of us have to go one day. So let's not worry too much about all these. Nothing scary, don't worry. Because, we will have to go one day. But it is only in our ancient Indian wisdom, they have thought about it very objectively, very dispassionately. They have thought about this idea because there is a lot of wisdom if you think about it. There's nothing to really get to read or anything. It gives us a great deal of wisdom. It gives us dispassion to many things in life. It gives us objectivity to life. These two messages are somewhere I am feeling these two messages are ingrained in this upasana. So therefore I want to talk about this little bit about death because that is what chapter 8 is. Chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, last shloka, Arjuna, Krishna says to Arjuna, Prayana kale mam smaran. You think of me in the final moments of your life. That is what he said. Then he said, Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam. He threw some terminologies, the last shloka of chapter 7 in Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 8 starts by Arjuna asking, what is this Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam and all that? I don't understand. So the first 14 shlokas are all about but all the ideas in chapter 8 we will use today. So I will go through it a little bit, where we can connect it to this anuvaka. First of all, we must really seriously understand that death is the most sacred moment in one's life. Please think on this. I mean, in your own ways you think about it. We all have born because for that occasion for us to go, and that's very special. It's not a scary thing. In fact, in a very simple way, if I have to say, even not this serious, I think we all live because we want to have that last sleep very peaceful. That is the purpose of life, actually, if you ask me. I mean, somewhere it gets shrouded, then we replace it with the salaries and promotion. We brought a lot of intermediate goals, which are all fine, but we thought they were the ultimate goals. They were not the ultimate goals. Moment we were born, our goal is to peacefully, when we do not know, but we have to very peacefully have that feeling of fullness when we drop off. In Raghuvamsha, beautifully Kalidasa says, he describes about Raghu kings in the first 6-7 slokas. So he says, what these Raghuvamsa kings do when they are Yavane, Kaumare, all that they say. Then finally they say that these people, these such great samrats, Chakravartis of this Raghu kingdom, but what they do is they slowly withdraw. Nobody knows when they disappeared. That's the word Kalidasa uses. Lokatyante tanutyajam. They just drop off the body and go. Nobody knows. That way he writes, saying there is a way by which we prepare ourselves for the last moment. It's a lifetime preparation. It is not going to happen. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the Ajamila Charitra is in a way bringing that idea in a different way. There is one Ajamelo Pakyanam in, I think the Shashtama Skanda or Saptama Skanda, I don't know, in Bhagavatam. That story will actually, if you read the story is one. If you read the message says there's a lifetime preparation required for this event. Because we need to develop certain perceptions about ourselves. We need to develop perceptions about the world around. These thoughts must shape and change as we grow. That is called wisdom. Growing is not, birthday after birthday. That's not growth. It is developing this wisdom of perceptions about oneself, about the world around, putting mind and intellect in its place. If this process evolves, we have actually become wiser in life. And there are certain practices in our lifetime which will naturally come our way. I think last class or the class before I was mentioning, if I am all the time worried about share market, when I die it will only share market only. Nothing else will come to my mind. There may be better things to come to my mind. But unfortunately it is share market which will come, or if you think of something else, that will come. So the question is, we need to shape our thinking. We need to evolve ourselves from this narrow self to a much broader self. Those are the ideas behind this. Now, this has been thought about in great detail, not only in Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. Some people have also done it in their great stotras that they have written. I have just taken a few of them. Look at here, he says, Antakalecha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram yaha prayati saha madbhavam yati nasti atra samshayah. In fact, Bhagavad Gita has certain shlokas which are all disclaimers. Nasti atra samshayah. There is no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt, Krishna is saying. That's how the shloka ends. Nasti atra samshayah. There is no doubt at all. And where is no doubt at all? He says, Saha madbhavam yati. He will come unto me. So the second line says, he will come unto me. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Who? That is written in the first line. It says, Antakale. In that last moment. Antakale cha mameva smaran. You are not thinking about share markets or 60-40 plot which is not to be sold, or title clashes and so on. Don't think about it, think about me. Mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram, gives up this body, this mortal body which the Pranan decides one day to give up. That time if you remember me, you will come to me. That's what he says in the 5th shloka. Then he says, to clarify it much more unambiguously, look at the next shloka. He says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejanti ante kalevaram. Whatever you think, whatever comes to your mind, at the time you breathe your last, whatever it is, Yam yam va api smaran bhavam tyajanti ante kalevaram tam tam eva eti. You go only there. Whatever thought you brought, that only you will become. Jataparata is another story. He was so enamored with the, see, so these are stories. The stories are not for stories. Stories are for the sukshma. The message there is, when we think of something all the time, that is what we, yad bhavam tad bhavati. What we think, that is what we will. I mean, this is no big complex thing actually. So that's what he says, tam tam eva eti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Because you thought about it, you will become like that. That's what Krishna has said in these two shlokas. And so, it merely says that is why this upasana is important. The concept of upasana. If the mind is chained into a few things, we'll keep thinking about it, so the last will also be like that. That is the broad principle behind this whole notion of upasana, which is very important in our spiritual progress. Look at these couple of shlokas, beautiful shlokas on Mukundamala, right? Where he says Diviva Bhuviva Mamastu Vasaha Narakeva Narakantaka Prakamam Avadhirita Sharadhara Vindau Charanaute Maranepi Chintayani. So he says Diviva Bhuviva Mama Astu Vasaha. See, after this soul leaves here, I don't know where it goes. He says, I don't want to waste my time on all that. Where it goes, I mean, there is a complex theory behind it. There is a lot of written on that. If you read Garuda Purana, you will find a lot of them on that also. So he says, I am not really bothered. Or it is in Naraka, let it be anything. You are the Narakantaka. You, if you wish, you can put an end to me going into Naraka. So Narakantaka Prakam. You have the desire to absolve me out of Naraka. That is the adjective for the Lord Krishna. Then he says, Avadhirita Sharadhara Vindau. This lotus, right? Lotus is nothing, pales in comparison with you, both your Padara Vinda. I want to think, Charanau. Padara Vinda, Avadhirita Sharadhara Vindau Charanau. So your two legs pales in, the lotus pales in comparison with your two legs. That's the way, in a poetic way, he's saying. He says, Maranepi Chintayani. If there is a way I can think of your lotus feet at the time of. So he is very smart. He knows if he can ask for it, the other things are automatically gone. So that's why he is, in a poetic way, he is saying that. The next one is even interesting. Look at here. Krishna, Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Pancharantaha Adyeva Me Vishatu Manasa Rajahamsaha. He is now portraying Krishna as this king of birds, Rajahamsa, the king of swans. He says, you come and sit in this nest called my mind. Today itself. He says, you come and sit today itself. Why? He says, Prana Prayana Samaye, when my prana goes, there will be a traffic jam. Kapavada Pittaihi Kantavarodhanam. My throat will be completely choked with bile and, kappa, pitta, vada, everything will come and choke. So I may not be able to utter your name at that time. So you come today itself and be part of me so that I will be remembering you all the time. That kind of a shloka. So these kinds of things are many. So the point that, the whole of chapter 8 is on this. On why it is important for us to think about the kind of things that our mind should be fed to, because they are the ones which come to our remembrance all the time. So all those are coming. So that is why this anuvaka is actually suggesting, as we see, it will be suggesting us to think about this issue more carefully. Okay, so let's now see the anuvaka. Saya esho ontar hridaya akashaha tasmin ayam purusho manomayah amruto hiranmayah. Now it says saha yaha yeshaha antar hridaya akashaha. So it is now pointing to a location. The location is akasha, is space. Akasha means space. He says, Antarhridayaha Akashaha. In fact, it says there is a word Hridaya, then Hridayasya ante, so inside the heart, and there is a space. This is the description there. Now, this is a very, in fact, in all Upanishads, today I have quoted only 4 or 5 of them, I am going to quote. You read any Vedic text, you will find this description. A description called heart, and a description called a space. Another name for that is Dahara, Daharakasha. There's another name for it. Daharakasha is that space in the heart. So, by this one line, the anuvaka says, that is where you have to contemplate. So, you don't have to contemplate on Buhu, Buvaha or Suvaha or anything like that. You don't have to contemplate on the Sandhis and Santana and all that. You now contemplate on a space inside the heart. This is what it is saying. Now this needs to be elaborated. I will do that. I am just only making a explanation of this. Tasmin, in that space, I am Purushaha. So now who has to be contemplated? Now the field where contemplation has to be done has been established. Now what is to be contemplated? And that is I am Purushaha. And the word I am, in Sanskrit, there are 4 words for he. Right? You have I am, Yeshaha, Asau, Saha. So there are 4 words. Sanskrit, there are 4 words for he, she, it. You can do similarly. So I am is a word used when somebody is at such a close proximity. I should say Iyam Bala, because Srilinga is Iyam. Somebody who is very close, you have to use Iyam, or Stri, or I am, or something. I am Rajagopal or something like that. So I am is very, very close. So by the choice of the word, the first message is the God is not a remote entity. No. So I am Purusha means it is at a very touching distance. That is what is being used. Yeshaha is used somebody who is at a distance. So some of you at the corner I have to use the word Yeshaha or Yesha or Etat, depending upon Pullinga, Strilinga, Napumsalinga. Asau is used for something which you can see but not in the calling distance. You say Asau Aditya, in Sandhya there is a mantra, Asau Aditya Brahma. Because you can see the Aditya but you can't talk, you can't call her, but you can see. So there the third he is used. Saha is used somebody who is neither in the calling distance nor in the line of sight. My brother is in Chennai, I say Saha. So that is also, here the word used is I am. So by this word I am is a clear indication God is not remote. The choice is yours. The God is at your touching distance. I am Purushaha. And that there are 3 adjectives given. One is Manomayaha, Amritaha, Hiranmayaha. Okay? This Maya is a Maya Pratyaya. So it's a suffix. This, Manomayaha, we are seeing here too. Manomayaha, Hiranmayaha. In 2nd chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad, you will see Annamayaha, Pranamayaha, Manonmayaha, Vijnanamayaha, Anandamayaha. So there is a Maya Pratyaya. Everything ending with Maya actually means, I have written it in English here, Maya Pratyaya changes some noun X. If you attach a Maya to a noun, then it actually means it is made of only that, nothing else, consisting of or being made of that. So it says Manomaya. So the first adjective for this is contemplate on that God which is nothing but manas, right? The word mana comes from, manas come from Sanskrit dhatu called mana. Mana means jnane, to know. The knowledge, the whole knowledge comes from, from the word mana only. There is anumana, everything comes out of it. If you put a prefix anu and then anumana, manyate, all those are there. So, manomaya is who is embodiment of knowledge, who is nothing but a complete embodiment of knowledge itself, is what is being indicated as the first adjective. The second is amritaha, which is immortal, right? And hiranmayaha. See, Hiranyamayaha, Hiranya is actually gold. I mean, it is called gold because Hiranya actually means that which can emit light, or which can be bright, which can be nothing but brightness and all that kind of thing, and that you have put a Maya Pratyaya also on the top of it. So Hiranyamaya, it is nothing but embodiment of knowledge, embodiment of light and all that. So all these are referred to in our Vedic thing as Hiranya Garbha. I mean, Hiranya Garbha is basically, translated in English as golden egg. It's the easiest translation, right? It doesn't actually mean that. In our scheme of things, Hiranya Garbha is the first manifestation of the Nirguna Brahman becoming a Saguna Brahman. The life forces which are all formed starts with Hiranya Garbha. That's why this is the Hiranya Garbha Sukta from Rig Veda. So I have brought that first mantra of that. Look at what it says. It says Hiranya Garbha samavartatagre bhutasya jata patireka asit sada adara prativim dyamute mam kasmai devaya havisha vidhema. So it says Hiranya Garbha samavartata agre bhutasya jataha patirekaha asit. This is the only one which is ahead of all bhutas, and it was the Lord of all living creatures. In fact, in our conceptualization of the universe, Hiranya Garbha is the first entity. So this is the part. So all the knowledge that we have, think about it. You bring in 1730 or 1740, one Englishman brought one small piece of tea something and planted somewhere in India. So today you have the Assam is full of tea, Darjeeling is full of tea, right? Nilgiris is full of tea, and what is more, if you take one tea plant and graft it and put in the one more tea plant, the virya is not 1/2. If you make 100 grafts, the vitality of the 100 plants are not 1/100. They are as vital as the first one. So imagine the power contained in the first one. That is what I am saying. Hiranya Garbha is the sum total of all the knowledge that we have, because it came from there. It is the sum total of all the perception, sum total of everything that you have. That is why it is called Manomayaha, Amritaha, Hiranmayaha, because in our conceptualization, that's how the Nirguna Brahman started making forms and shapes. Plant kingdom, animal kingdom, water, Manushyas, everything came out of it. So it must be a vitality of power infinity, because it will multiply, and vitality will never come down. So that is what is being contemplated. Now this is a very deep idea. Now first of all, let us talk about this heart business. It says Hridaya Antaraha Akashaha. That is the first thing that it says. Now this heart, in our Indian tradition, first of all I want to tell you something. Is there something called mind? Science cannot accept it. Because moment science accepted mind, first question he will ask is, please dissect the mind and give it to me. In fact, Swami Shivananda, I don't know how many of you know his story, he was a doctor in Malaysia. Okay, one sadhu came to the hospital. One sadhu asked him that, can you have so many gadgets with you? This happened probably 70 years, 80 years back, I don't know, when Swami Shivananda, 1920s I think. He said, you have so many gadgets with you. Can you use all the gadgets and show me that soul? You do scan, or at that time I don't know what it was there, I have no idea, but that question remains even today. Use all your gadgets, can you show me the soul? You cannot show the soul. So manas is like that. Mind is only it's a virtual entity. If I can use some of the computer words and talk Vedanta actually. I find computer terminologies are so useful for Vedanta. Because lots of those ideas are parallel to what I see in computers. That's what I find. So you cannot point to mind. Nobody can point to mind, but we all know there is something called mind. I mean, such a conspicuous entity for us. For everything, I don't have the mind to do. Mind is a very common parlance usage, but can you show me the mind? I don't know where to show. Correct? Now, this is where the ancient Indian wisdom is really something smart. Ancient Indian wisdom talked about indriyas. I am taking an example because mind is part of an indriya. Now, they had a very interesting classification. They said this eye is not the indriya. Eye is only a physical, some kind of a knob or some kind of a ball or something. It is not indriya. But when you say sight as an indriya, we seem to show this. This is not the indriya. That is why you can close your eye and sleep, and in dream you can actually see your neighbor very well and then have a chat also. How did you see when you closed your eyes? In fact, the joke goes like this: you don't have to wear a glass when you actually see a dream, whatever be your power, because you are not using the eye. So the indriyas, our ancient Indian wisdom says, the indriyas are not what you show here. Chakshus means not this. Of course, this is a physical entity, but indriya is something behind it. That's why a blind man may have a very normal looking eyeballs and eye, but his indriya called chakshus is not there. A deaf may have a very nice looking ear, even it look very normal. Even the bladder, everything, I mean the drum or whatever, everything will be look very similar. So they are only some physical references, but there are virtual references. So when you say chakshus, when you like that, manas. So what is this manas? And where is this manas? This is a question which we need to answer first. Now we have a lot of personal life experiences. I want to share a few of them. First of all, so this manas, so just like seeing as a indriya, we say this is a reference. Hearing as a indriya, we say this is a reference, although this is not. In the same way, the indriya for manas is heart. That's where the heart is coming, first of all. It is not the pathological, it is not the physiological heart. Physiological heart is a physical instrument, but the heart that is being referred in Vedantic literature is a proxy to manas, as much as this is a proxy for an indriya called chakshus. Okay? Now, how do we know that? And we have a lot of experience, personal experience. I am not telling something which we don't know. Look at this. First of all, our first source of identity is heart. You ask anybody cutting across nations and demography and so on, moment he say I, his hand goes like this. His hand goes nowhere else. Actually, if you do a shortest path algorithm, he should be doing this. If he is already like this, he should put his hand on the thigh, because that is shortest path algorithm. But he takes the hand all the way and brings it here. Our source of, we refer ourselves here. When you say how many of you say somewhere? Nobody is taught. It always happens. So first you understand that this is a very important spot for us. This is where our quintessential nature is resident here. That is what it is being referred. This is all our personal experience, item 1. Second, when very good things happen to us in life, when really good things, I mean whatever it may be, you did something which was so satisfying. You know what word we use in English? We say I did to my heart's content. This is the word we use. We don't say I did to my brain's content or my mind's content. Nobody uses a word like that. The word heart is used. We say I had a heartfelt condolences. You know, brain felt condolences or something. It's a hearty talk, not a brainy talk. The brainy talk can be very dangerous, because it's all ahankar. You know, one punch of the fist, all that can happen. Brain can only do that much. So this heart is a very special organ which we sometimes don't think, but we use it in day-to-day life. We use it. Our feelings and sentimental references, everything, you cannot but use the word heart. In whatever language you use, Hardika Shubhashayagalu. This is what they said day before yesterday. Hardika Shubhashayagalu. They didn't use any other word in Kannada. For example, if you want to say New Year or whatever, right? So when feelings and any sentimental things are always told in any language, heart comes. Think about this idea. Then, so therefore, this heart that is being referred here, Antarhridayaha, it is not a physiological device, it is a psychological reference in our ancient Indian wisdom. It's a virtual reference to Manas. Moment you say, where is your Manas? It is in the heart. So that is why the contemplation has to be done into the heart, means it is in the mind. It has to be done. In fact, I will show you a couple of, in fact, this has number of references in varieties of places. I can go on and on and on, but one or two I want to show, because this is very important for us to understand. This is Narayana Suktam. This is a very famous sukta. A lot of people recite this. It says, Anantam Avyayam Kavigum Samudrentam Vishwashambhuvam Padmagosha Pratikashagum Hridayanchap Adhomukam. In fact, they say this is an inverted lotus. The heart is an adhomukam. The face is down. Adaha is down. Mukam is the face. So it says that it is describing an organ called heart. And it says that is like an inverted lotus. That's what it is saying, right? Anantam, Avyayam, Kavim. Kavim means Puranam. Okay? Anantam, endless. Avyayam, imperishable. And Kavim. And Samudrentam Vishwashambhuvam. Residing in that Samudre. Which Samudre? Hridaya Samudre. That you have to take it there. In the heart of ocean, the ocean of the heart, this Brahman, this Narayana, this principle of Narayana is being described. This whole Narayana Suktam talks about the heart and how in the heart space you can actually see Narayana. That is what is the main message in Narayana Sukta. That's what it says. Then he says, Ado Nishta Vidasyante Nabhyam Uparitishtati. It says it is above the navel. It says to the length of the thumb. Physiologically, they say the heart is exactly, if you take the thumb and then take from the navel, that's where the position of the heart can be actually looked at. So it's Nabhyam Uparitishtati, Jwalamala Kulam. It's all, effulgence. It's all nothing but brightness and effulgence. Bhati, it is all shining. Vishwasyayatanam Mahata. This is the abode of the great universe. So several references are there which says you can see the God here. Antarbahistasa sarvam vyapya narayana stitaka. That's how it starts. This Narayana Suktam starts by saying that ultimate principle is inside, it's also outside. That's how it starts. This whole Narayana Suktam describes it in great detail. I just took only a couple of mantras to show this. Then Mahanarayana Upanishad. This is a very famous section called Dahara Vidya. Dahara is the heart, that space. Daharakasha. There are actually, about 10 mantras in that. I have taken only the first mantra, beautiful mantra. Look at this. It says, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan Atma Guhayam Nihitosya Jantoh. That's what it says. First of all, it says, Anoraniyan, smallest of the smallest. Mahato Mahiyan, biggest of the biggest. So, which means that principle which pervades everything. That is what poetically told here. The smallest of the smallest and the biggest of the biggest, if you take, and where it is, it says Atma Guhayam. In that cave, Nihitaha Asya Jantoho. In every living being's cave, in the heart, this is there. And that is the smallest of the smallest, that is the biggest of the biggest. That's what this mantra, that's how it starts. A beautiful set of some 10 mantras are there. Tamakratum pashyati vita shoko dhatu prasadaan mahimanamisham tam akratum. One who is beyond this, actions. Akratum, beyond this world of action. Tam akratum pashyati. Somebody who is able to see that person. And who is that? He is, how do you see? Dhatu prasadat. With all your gadgets that you are endowed with, if there is a way, if you can find that, he says, Vita shokaha. All your sorrows will disappear. That is the ultimate route for all our sorrows to disappear, is what it is saying. There are some 10, 12 mantras in this. First mantra says that, again there is a reference of this space which is in the heart. And we all have our own experiences. When good things happen, we feel good in our heart. That shows that is the seat of our Vyaktitva. We have to go there and then look at. That is the deepest upasana that is being talked about here. It is a beautiful shloka because this is available everywhere. That's why I wanted to, just to give you a sample from Shivananda Lahari. This is the 44th shloka. It's a beautiful shloka. Look at what it says. Karalagna mrigaha, karindra bangaha, gana shardula vikantanosta jantuhu, girishaha, vishadakritischa, chetak kuhare panchamukosti, me kutobihi. Shankaracharya says, in my chetak kuhara, that cave in my heart, this Panchamukha, Rudra has Panchamukha, Satyojata, Tatpurusha, Vamadeva, like that there are names. This five-faced Rudra is actually sitting in the cave of my heart. Where is my fear? That's the question he asked. It's as simple as that. The rest are all adjectives for him. In this shloka, the question is, Chetak kuhare panchamukosti me kuto bihi. Where is my fear? Because he is sitting in my cave of my heart. That five-headed Rudra is sitting. In other words, I am able to see the God there. Panchamukha asti, all those are saguna. The point is, if you know how to see the God there, I become fearless. And the others are all the Karalagna Mrigaha, he is, that these are all the Puranic stories which are all there. The symbol, the Mrigaha is this thing, deer. So he killed a deer, he has a deer in his hand. And then Karindra Bangaha, Gajasura was killed, like that. All those are Puranic stories from which all those adjectives are come. But the message here is, Chetak kuhare panchamukosti me kuto bihi. So it's in stotras I find it. Lots of Vedic references where, so moment we read a word heart, in Vedantic literature, in Bhagavad Gita, wherever, what we must understand is, it is the reference for mind. So that is why that space is very important. Our personality is in the mind. So that's why if we can do the mind control, we change. That is our understanding of the whole thing. Our emphasis is on mind, not on brain. Whereas the Western emphasis is more on brain. It's all, you have to be intellectually very clean, you have to be very discriminating, very analytical. Whereas we want that, but that is subset to the mind or this heart. So the heart versus brain dichotomy is very, very important for us to understand. So all these we must remember for that half sentence. Antarhrishe hridaya akashaha is, by that it is saying, bring your upasana, do a self-meditation inside. Search for that space. The day you found the space, you are released. That's what it is saying. So the first Anuvaka's first part says what is to be contemplated, Hiranya Garbha. Where is it to be contemplated? It is to be contemplated in that space in the heart, which is a reference frame for the mind. In other words, contemplate it in your mind. See God in your mind, that's the end of the story, is what this is showing. Now the Anuvaka goes and says what happens to a person who does it, right? Who succeeds in this upasana. That is what is indicated here. Antare nataluke ya eshastana iva valambate se endra yonihi yatraso keshanto vivartate vyapohya sirsha kapale. There are sketchy references to a very deep concept which is there in Yoga Shastra in a big way. Again, this is a very deep Vedantic concept. First of all, I explain what is written here. It says Antarena taluke. Taluka is that throat. That portion of throat is called taluka. So Antarena taluke, inside the throat portion, that is how it starts. I am just broken, I am giving the meaning first, then we'll understand the larger principle. Yesha sthanaiva avalambate, that which is hanging like a nipple. that is the small fleshy portion which is hanging in our throat for all of us, that is being referred there. It's one portion which is hanging like that. So that is what it is saying. Sthana iva avalambate, right? That's the second indication. Says Saha Indra Yonihi. That is the path of Indra. So it is actually talking about a path. Say Indra Yonihi. Saha Indra Yonihi. Okay? And that has to be at the end, but it has come in the middle. Now the path has some more details. It says Yatra Asau Keshante. The Anta of the Keshas. If you take the skull, the head, right? For every one of us, there is one point there will be no hair. As you grow old, that can get a larger also. But there is a reference point where there is the end of the hair. Right? So that is what is being referred. Keshantaha and Vivartate, where the hair splits. So the two parts. So there is a middle portion where there is no hair. That point is being referred. In our yogic shastra, that is called Brahmarandram. Brahmarandra. I'll come to that. So that is being referred. Then it says Vyapohya, break open or pierce. Right? What? Sirsha Kapale, that bone, skull bone pertaining to that portion, that gives way, and through that is the path of Indra Yoni. I mean, this much is there. These are all sketchy details are here. Now question is, what is being mentioned here? That's the question now. Now this is again a very deep, every Upanishad has talked about it in great detail. I will touch a little bit on it and continue later because it is going to be a longer thing. Because unless we understand this, because these are all there everywhere. Now, just to give you a preamble to it, in our scheme of things, in our Vedantic thinking, right, what are we told? We are all told that the goal is finally we have to liberate. This Janma, Mrityu, Janma, Jara, Vyadi, Mrityu, Janma, Jara, Vyadi, Mrityu. This cycle of birth and death goes on and on and on. Now our model says that we are all, whether we know it or not, whether we have realized it or not, we are all going on a path, and that path is one in which we want to get out of this cycle of samsara. This is the basic model. Ultimate goal is we have to get out of this samsara chakra. If you can't, then this birth and death will go on, and there's vivid description of that in stotras, in Vedanta literature, wherever you read. This is central to Indian theme. The whole Punarjanma, all those are, right? Now the question is, how will this happen? So we are now talking of a very, end goal sort of a problem. Now the question is, how will it happen? Our model says there are two ways that it will eventually happen. One is called Krama Mukti. Another is called Videha Mukti or Jivan Mukti. This is very deeply discussed. There are lots of ideas behind it. We will not get into that much detail. Basically, Krama Mukti says that this Vyakti, each Vyakti, goes through this so-called Darwinian evolution that you may call it, but we have a spiritual evolution. The Darwinian evolution is only a physical evolution. I am talking about a spiritual evolution. So this Vyakti goes through a spiritual evolution, and as Janmas after Janmas it happens, the quantum of goodness that we accumulate is so much, and there are no karmas and vasanas which are to be exhausted. Then you can actually get promoted and go somewhere. This is one method. It is all getting promoted and going to higher plane, and finally reaching Brahmanhood. So this model is called Krama Mukti. Okay? There is a second model which is called Videha Mukti. This is very, very rare, as people say. It happens to people, which means they drop the body and straight. There is no step 1, step 2 and all that. People like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Ramana Maharshi are all told like that. They have Videha Mukti. Which means, only way that can happen is, this whole bundle of all prarabdha karmas are over. There is no debit balance. See, why are we coming again? Because we have some account to be settled. I wanted something, so I have to come back. I have so much desire. Without the desire, God is very fair. If you have so much desire, He will not let you go. He will ask you to come again and say, fulfill the desire. Let us see after that. See, He wants to be fair. So, if there is a possibility that some people have absolutely nothing, which means they have absolutely no balance, then they have to just pass through this janma. There is some little bit leftovers which are all to be completed. Once that is completed, that's it. They will just become Jivan Muktas or Videha Muktis, which means they drop and that's the end of it. So these are the two paths. What is being described here is Krama Mukti. Moment you say Krama Mukti, then you have to show a path now. There must be a path. There must be a way it must happen. Step 1, step 2, step 3, all those are there. So that has to be shown. So what is told in these two, they are told in very cryptic form here. What is told here is what happens to the soul after this janma. So it has shown the path up to what you can see now. Then the Upanishad, the other Upanishad show the other paths. So what is it saying? It is saying, see, if you look at our Prashna Upanishad, it is in great detail. This heart, which is an inverted lotus, it says there are 101 main nadis from there. Right? In that there is one nadi called Sushumna. There is a Ida, Pingala, there is a very complex things are written, Yoga Shastras, you find all these Kundalini, all those are there. There is one nadi or one path called Sushumna, and that Sushumna starts from the heart. It passes through the middle of the throat. That is what is being described here. The trajectory of the Sushumna is described here. It goes through the heart region. It goes through that hanging tongue that we say. It pierces through the throat layer. So it's not physical piercing. These are virtual entities. This is like saying there is currency all over here. Please believe me. If you don't believe, I will just log in and then transfer money for you. There is currency all over here. Currency is in the ether now. That you are able to appreciate. Same idea here. Fortunately, you are able to appreciate it. You can appreciate this. So you don't have to look for physical entity. So it passes through the throat and it goes through that portion. It goes through this, all these chakras and so on. Then it goes to this Brahmarandram. See, a newborn child, you would actually see it. This space will be very, very soft. If you touch the child, if you close the child, will suffocate because it breathes through that. The Brahmarandram is very important. So through that, so the Prashna Upanishad, I will show the shloka next class. What it says is there are 101 paths. The soul can technically take any of these 101 paths and go out when it chooses to go out. So this says if it goes through this path, that is Indrayoni. And this upasana, he says if you do this upasana, you are guaranteed that this will happen. That will come later, but we will try to understand what is being told here. Right? So that is what is being told here. Then it opens the Brahmarandram and then it goes out of that. If it goes through another nadi, there are all details there. If it goes through different nadis, what will happen? But the message is, if it goes through any other nadi, that means we are coming back. This cycle of birth and death continues. That is the meaning in our, these theoretical foundations that we have. We will see it in the next class. I mean, these are all deep ideas, because otherwise this has no meaning. I cannot simply, translate this and go. And I think these are some of the ideas which we need to broadly, it's all out there. But we need to develop some understanding. Because life can become, I personally feel, life can become more meaningful. More importantly, challenges in life we will be able to so beautifully handle if we understand these ideas. There's nothing scary here. It really, emboldens us. It makes us even brave to take things as come, because we see a much larger picture in which we are playing out. That is another value which people like us will find a lot of value there. We will continue in the next class.